Happy Wednesday, guys. How you doing? Welcome to the Academic Answers podcast. Thanks for joining us and thanks for listening in. And it's a pleasure to come to you to share with you my perspective. And it is fascinating when I look back at my life experiences and what I've been through and what got me here. And you know, even though we naturally don't want adversities, and even though we naturally don't want troubles in our life, it is these things that make us. It is these down moments, it's these tough times, it's these mishaps, mistakes, poor judgment that actually shape our being. And it's actually a lot of times when we think, and this is probably the biggest thing that I've learned from my journey, and is that some of the things that we think are breaking us actually didn't break us. It was bending us into the right direction. And part of my stories, and I'll just show you where I'm coming from really quickly. So part of my story is that I started out quite early. My second paycheck when I left university, my second paycheck, and people listen to this from across the world, and I grew up in a third world country, but understand, guys, that my studies were courses that came out of a first world country. So we had these courses, all the courses in our colleges and universities. I'm not sure about that now, but then, back then, all those courses were adaptations, were courses, were books, were lesson plans, were actual content from America or England. Because we're from the British system. The Queen is the head of state, and everything is, the court system is British, the education system is British. And a lot of the tertiary education stuff is a mixture of the American stuff and British stuff. So sometimes people, you know, not that I care, but sometimes people tend to scoff at my training because they think that, you know, he's third world, I'm first world. It makes no difference. It's the same. My degree is first world stuff. But forget that, because this degree thing is another question. It's crazy. So I started early. I had this ambition, this drive to become someone great. So where I came from, there were 2 cars that pass in the week, 2 standard. If there's any more, it doesn't get above 4. Listen to me carefully. 2 cars. We didn't have to see them to know which car it was. Once the day of the week and the time of the day tell us which car it was. There was the guy that came with bread on a Wednesday, and there was the guy that came with fish on a Saturday morning. There's a fish van and the bread van. Those are the 2 motor vehicles you'll hear, and there's a motorcycle, a bike, that you hear that is next door. My next door neighbor had that. There's no more vehicle that pass that way for the whole week, every week. I'm from deep rural remote. There is no business place to inspire me. The only professional career I saw was the teacher who taught me in my grade school, and that's it. But I was able to see myself beyond my environment. So there's an apple tree, not American apples. There's OTET apple, or they call it Ethiopian apple, whatever. I just realized the other day that people call it Ethiopian apple too. My wife was telling me that, yeah, you know, I don't remember knowing. I probably knew, but I sat underneath that OTET apple tree with ants falling on me and everything, and I dream. I dream of a better life. And the first thing that inspired me, there was a neighbor living, in fact, he was my cousin's grandfather that lived below me, because my house was on a hill, his was on the lower level. And then there was a road, like a dirt road, a little track, like on a farm. There's our farmlands all the way. This is a farming community. That's all it's subsistence farming. We lived off the land for the most part. And that neighbor was, I'm guessing he was about 65, 70 years old when I was a little kid growing up. And I used to watch that gentleman every single morning, bent over on a stick with a bag on his back, with raggedy, dirty clothes, walking a mile or 2 miles to his farm to till the soil, to plant crops, to try to eke out a living for his family. I watched that every day, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to be that guy. And sometimes you have to start from the point of what you don't want to be before you decide what you want to be. I was saying to myself, this is ridiculous. I don't want to be that guy. And my grandmother couldn't read and write. She was close to the colonial Jamaica and the colonial years of the British rule, when people were poor and the tricklings of the plantation of slavery was still strong in the culture and in the economy. My grandmother couldn't read and write. My mother left to the big city, to Kingston, to try to earn a living, to change her life, and that was a common thing. So some families, which is a smaller percentage of the families, were able to migrate to Britain, England, and America. Britain, Canada, and America. And then the rest, who couldn't, who wanted a better life, went to Kingston to be domestic helpers, to be factory workers. My grandmother couldn't read and write. So there has never been a point in my life when someone said, go take up your book, go study. I've never heard that. I have never heard, go do your homework. But I had that internal drive to want to do it, because I saw it while I was dreaming. That was the only way out. And it's sad, because you know what? Now these days, anything is a way out. And just after education in Jamaica, the other thing was entertainment and sports. But sports wasn't getting the rural guys out, because there was no program to help them to develop. I remember my cousin, who wasn't so good academically, but was so talented in sports. And every time I think of him, I just imagine him growing up in another part of the country or in another country and realizing how much of I'm certain of it, how much of a celebrity would be in the sporting world. Any one of 4 different types of sports. At age 8, he was beating 50-year-old people from all over the parish in chess. Naturally, he was good. And there was no opportunity. So I remember seeing education as my only way out. All through grade school, nobody told me to take up my book. I did it naturally. All through high school, no one told me to take up my book. I did it naturally. All through university, there's not one soul tell me to do your work. I did. Nobody ever checked my homework. Nobody ever checked my grades. Nobody ever looked at my reports ever at all. I just did it, and people assume that this guy just does his stuff. Good. I did it. all through those academic years, I still didn't dream of stopping there. I dreamt of an abundant life. My dreams were to be very wealthy. I only spoke of wealthy stuff in school. So I started early. What I did, first paycheck, I got this job at this hotel on the North Coast, and my first paycheck, I used it to put towards starting this business, like a beauty supply and a barber shop for my friends who were into that stuff, really close. And we said, okay, let's just go invest in this barbershop. And all we were doing, we were taking the money from it, and we were just having fun, going all over the place. And it has never been different from then until now. I was 18 years old, and ever since I was 18 years old, I was doing business and trying to create something that could take me to wealth. Just taking action and making moves on a pile load of businesses. I'm probably at number 35 when it comes on to doing businesses. Just going through them. Most of them have been colossal failures. Some great winners. Some squandered totally, and some had huge potential. Some had my heart cry at what I could have done with them and what they could have been to me. But I'm telling you this to tell you that there was a point where 3 of my businesses go bust in a 2-year span. I lost $13 million up front, in debt to the tune of $4 million, and it was horrible. I broke down. I lost my zest for life. I just didn't know what to do. I was becoming a victim. I was blaming everybody. Because when you have tasted flight, understand that when you have tasted flight, when you have the money that could buy a car, driving around with every day, and then when it don't even enter your mind what your expenses are, because they were just not even a matter of importance. They just taken care of. Whenever they come up, they're dealt with. I remember this time when my mom called me and said, wow, Loon, where are you? You know, can you check out the price of a refrigerator for me? My fridge just went out. I'm like, okay. I picked up my phone. I called the people who sold these things, and she had a refrigerator in 25 minutes to an hour. I remember going by her house one day, and she came out of her room drenched in sweat, because she lives in this community that gets really hot, and though the houses that are in that community are built with what they call slab. It's like some concrete that doesn't breathe well, so it traps the heat. And I saw her drenched in sweat. I'm like, no way. I pick up the phone. I call my AC guy. It was in by the weekend. I didn't think about the price. I didn't think about the cost. I never had to wait until the weekend. I never had to wait until a paycheck. I never had to ask a guy to give me a better price. I never asked him to give me a lower quality AC. I never asked for any money. There's no planning. None of that. I just did it. Fast forward a couple of years later to struggling with an old car, to struggling to pay the bills, to being backed up 4 months in rent, 5 months in rent, to be trying to hide from people that I owe money, to be getting crazy calls on my phone about money. Who will do what to me if I don't pay up, and all that foolishness. And I was at my lowest point. And this is the reason why you're listening to me now. My brother, younger brother, I have one brother, he's younger than I, had a girlfriend at the time when Amazon Kindle was just coming out. And she said, "Hey, Loan, do you read?" Look, the only books I've ever read is, there's one book I remember reading. I used to kind of sneak and try to find my uncle's Hustle and Reader's Digest porn books and read them when I was probably 9, 10. But I didn't read books. Only books I read through school were my textbooks. I didn't read any fiction or non-fiction outside of my textbooks. Those are only books I read. The only other one I can actually remember reading, which is a fiction, is Year in San Fernando, that I got in my literature class. I think it was third form literature, Year in San Fernando. I read that cover to cover, and I think I got halfway through this book called Animal Farm. There's a lot of lessons in that book. But I didn't read. And she gave me this book, this Kindle, and said I could borrow it, and there's a book on it. My friends, there's a book on the Kindle. I remember that book by Dr. Ben Carson called Big Picture Thinking. That book changed my life. That book is why you are listening to me now. That book proved to me that sometimes when life is happening, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And sometimes when you think you are broken, you are being bent in the right direction. After I read that book, and she had a way to add more books to the Kindle, between that time and now, I've been through, that's probably, what's 10, 20? Whoa, that's maybe 15 or 18 years ago. Between that time until now, I've read over 200 books. I have my Kindle, it's at home, I can show you. I have loads of books on it because I returned that Kindle to her. She was ready for it, and I purchased my Kindle for $450 on eBay. I remember that Kindle. Can you imagine a Kindle for $450 is just coming out, and it was the thing. And I've read over 200 and odd books. If I start to scroll on my Kindle now, it moves really quickly, and it's probably 25 in a slide. And that probably thing give me 5-6 scrolls of books loaded. Read them all. When I started to read, I woke up every morning for over 745 days. That's almost 2 years, or above 2 years, and wrote a blog, just unleashing all that I have learned in my reading and expressing how I feel. And as I go deeper into doing this, writing that blog on Facebook, you can go, it's Academy of Success, Success, Full Potential and Happiness. This is how this podcast was started, because people start to ask me questions, and it become kind of difficult for me to sit and write with my new family and a baby and a wife and that stuff. So I started to speak, and I wrote all those blogs every single morning, because I realized when I put it all together, as Steve Jobs said, you cannot connect the dots looking backward. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You only can connect them looking backward. I look back over my life, and I realized that all through grade school, high school, university, I was naturally looked upon as this leader, and I was doing this long before I know what I was doing. I was giving people advice. I was writing love letters for my friends. Tons of them I wrote. I was giving people guidance. I was inspiring people. I was helping people. I was making people take charge of their lives. But I made the point to bring home to you that some of the adversities that we face in life, some of the things we go through, they are our seed of opportunity that are being given to us. But things don't always come as a polished piece of jewelry. Sometimes you have to dig Sometimes it have to go through the grind, like you get a piece of Kesselite rock that is molded, dug up 3,000 feet from below the earth, molded through intense amount of heat and brought to the marketplace as diamonds. My apologies for that, sorry. So, as you go through your life and as you come into your struggles, as you face your trials, understand that every challenge, every adversity comes with it a seed of opportunity equal or greater than what is needed to overcome. And in order, if you're not seeing it, you're either not patient enough or you're not looking hard enough. Like the people who have gone through years of illnesses, who have gone through years of abuse, who have gone through years of depression and have pulled themselves out and have come out here and have helped another 1,000 or 10,000 people to pull themselves out, have created an income stream from it, have changed their lives and the life of their families from that income stream, just by helping and sharing what they have gone through, using that seed, using that adversity, being bent, looking at life as them being bent rather than being broken, and going down the path and being diligent and disciplined and intelligent enough to package that, to use it to their advantage. And like this writer always say, gravity is what brings us to the ground. If you jump from a building, the gravity is why you will get broken into pieces on the ground. But nobody complains about gravity. In fact, we've found a way to put the airplane in the sky despite gravity. So, troubles in life will come. Problems, heartbreaks, the issues, the struggles. You have to know, you have to find a way to turn them into resources and to look at these struggles as creating new avenues. I'm not saying you're not supposed to be sad. I'm not saying you're not to go through it. I'm not saying you're not going to be down. I'm not saying that's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's not a big deal. I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying that if it happened, if it is happening, if it happened, what are you going to do next? Are you going to try to milk something from it? Are you going to use that lime to make lemonade? Or are you just going to choke on the lime? Thank you, my friends. Always a pleasure. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Remember that in life, you're not always being broken. You probably are being bent. Thank you. Have a good day.